There is a number that haunts the American subconscious. It isn't written in the Constitution. It isn't mandated by the Federal Reserve. But for 40 years, it was the unofficial finish line of the American middle class. That number is $70,000. Psychologically, this number wasn't chosen at random. For decades, economists and sociologists, including a famous 2010 study by Nobel laureates Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton, suggested that emotional well-being peaked around $75,000. Beyond that, money didn't buy happiness. But up to that point, it bought something arguably more important. It bought the absence of fear. It meant you could fix the transmission on your car without checking your bank balance. It meant you could fund a 401k without cutting into your grocery budget. It meant the ground beneath you was solid. If you hit $70,000, the system promised you were safe. But today, if you earn $70,000 in any major economic hub in America, you do not feel safe. You feel hunted. We are living through a unique moment in history where the map and the territory no longer match. We are using financial benchmarks from 2005 to navigate an economy that was fundamentally rewritten in 2020. We aren't just dealing with inflation. We are dealing with the total erosion of the labor-to-survival exchange rate. The contract has changed. And to understand why you feel broke despite doing everything right, we have to look at the three silent killers that inflation calculators and the news conveniently ignore. Let's stop talking about 70,000 for a moment. Let's look at the new gold standard of success, 6 figures, $100,000. In the cultural imagination, earning 6 figures means you've made it. It suggests disposable income, vacations, and margin. But let's run a forensic audit on that number in 2024. If you earn $100,000 a year, you are technically in the top 18% of individual earners. But money doesn't live in a vacuum. It lives in a tax bracket and a zip code. Let's assume you live in a Tier 2 city, not New York or San Francisco, but somewhere like Austin, Denver, or Atlanta, places where the jobs are. First, the federal government takes its cut. Then the state, then FICA, Social Security, and Medicare. Then, if you are responsible, you contribute 5% to a 401k to get your employer match. Then, you pay your portion of health insurance premiums, which have risen 47% since 2011, vastly outpacing inflation. Before the money even hits your direct deposit, that $100,000 salary is actually about $5,800 a month in spendable reality. Now apply the rules of thumb your parents taught you. They said, don't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. On $5,800 a month, that gives you a budget of $1,740. In 2024, the median rent for an apartment in a city with a robust labor market hovers between $2,100 and $2,600. To follow the responsible rule, you would have to live nearly an hour away from the job that pays you the money in the first place. So, you break the rule. Most people do. Housing now consumes 40 to 50% of take-home pay from moderate earners. Add a car payment, because American infrastructure mandates car ownership, averaging $700. Add insurance. Add student loan repayment, averaging $300 to $500. Add groceries, utilities, and internet. The math resolves to zero. At $100,000 a year, you are arguably solvent, but you are not secure. One medical emergency, one layoff, or one bad car accident wipes out 6 months of progress. This is what economists call being ALICE, asset-limited, income-constrained employed. You have a job, you have a good salary, but you have no leverage. Why did this happen? Why does a 6-figure salary feel like a subsistence wage? It's not because you're buying too many lattes. It's because of something called Baumel's cost disease and the specific type of inflation that hit the things you actually need. If you look at the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, the government tells you inflation is cooling. They tell you a TV is cheaper today than it was in 1995, and they're right. Toys are cheaper, electronics are cheaper, software is cheaper. Anything that can be manufactured in a factory and shipped on a boat has become deflationary. But you cannot live inside a flat-screen TV. You cannot eat an iPhone. The things that have exploded in price are the things that are immune to globalization: housing, healthcare, education, childcare. We call these the 4 pillars of survival. And unlike a TV, you cannot choose not to buy them. In economics, this is called inelastic demand. When the price of a luxury vacation goes up, you don't go. When the price of insulin or rent goes up, you pay it, or you die, or you end up homeless. The economy has split into 2 tracks. The fun economy is affordable. The survival economy is predatory. Let's look at housing, the biggest trap of all. In the 1970s, the median home price was roughly 3 times the median household income. Today, in desirable markets, that ratio is 7, 8, or even 10 times. This didn't happen by accident. We turned housing from a place to live to an asset class for investment. We restricted supply through zoning laws, NIMBYism, preventing affordable density. Then, historically low interest rates allowed corporations and investors to treat residential homes like the stock market. When you're trying to buy a home today, you aren't just competing with another family. You are competing with BlackRock. You are competing with Airbnb algorithms. You are competing with generational wealth that needs a place to park cash. Your labor income cannot compete with their capital leverage. And this brings us to the deepest cut of all. The moment the link between hard work and reward was structurally severed. If you ever feel like you're working harder than your parents did but have less to show for it, it's because you are, and we have the data to prove it. From 1948 to 1973, 2 lines moved together: productivity and compensation. If you made the company more money, you took more money home. The social contract held. But in 1973, the lines snapped. Productivity kept going up. We invented computers, the internet, email, and AI. 1 worker today can do the job of 10 workers from 1980. We are more efficient, faster, and more profitable than any generation in history. But look at the bottom line. Wages went flat. Adjusted for real inflation, the average worker's purchasing power has barely budged in 50 years. Where did the excess value go? If you are creating 100% more value, but your pay only went up 10%, who kept the other 90%? It went to 3 places. 1. Shareholder dividends and buybacks. 2. C-suite compensation. 3. Asset inflation. This is the productivity trap. Technology didn't liberate us, it compressed us. It allowed companies to run leaner crews, demanding 24/7 connectivity via smartphones, squeezing more output out of fewer humans without paying for the increased load. So when you hear nobody wants to work anymore, understand the context. It's not that people don't want to work, it's that people have realized the return on investment for their labor has collapsed. Why grind for a promotion if the raise doesn't even cover the rent increase? Why be loyal to a company that views you as a line item to be optimized? This realization is painful. It leads to burnout. It leads to quiet quitting. But ultimately, it leads to a necessary awakening. This brings us to the hard truth. The solution to the $70,000 trap isn't budgeting. You cannot budget your way out of a structural deficit. You cannot skip enough avocado toast to close a gap created by 50 years of macroeconomic policy. The divide in America is no longer just rich versus poor. It is participants versus owners. A participant is someone who sells their time for money. A participant is exposed to inflation. When the price of eggs or gas goes up, the participant gets poorer. When rent goes up, the participant loses margin. An owner is someone who holds claims on the system. They own equity, they own real estate, they own debt. When inflation hits, the owner's assets often rise in value. When rent goes up, the owner gets richer. When productivity increases, the owner captures the surplus. The uncomfortable reality of the modern economy is that labor is a depreciating asset.
Your body gets tired, your skills get outdated, your time is finite. But capital is an appreciating asset. It works while you sleep. It scales without fatigue. Cash that sits still is slowly melting like an ice cube on a countertop. So where does this leave us? Does this mean we should give up? No, but it means we have to stop playing a game that ended in 1999. We have to acknowledge that the safety number, whether it's 70,000 or 100,000, is a mirage. Income alone is not safety, because as long as your survival depends entirely on the next paycheck, you are fragile. You are one restructure, one layoff, or one bad diagnosis away from zero. The goal of the modern worker cannot just be higher wages, it must be ownership. The economy is not broken. It is working exactly as it was designed.